I'm Claire Beck and I'm a freshman.
Hi, I'm Miss Lee and I teach English in the high school.
Hi, I'm Jen Park and I'm a 9th grader.
Hi, my name's Angela Campbell. I currently teach AP Chemistry and AP Physics 2 and one section of Chem Phys at SIS.
For me, I would say that iPad is a device that I couldn't live without as a kid. With the iPad, I usually spend time watching YouTube and playing games because it's bigger than a phone but like more compact than a television or a laptop. So I used to watch YouTube a lot, like almost 4 hours every day during the COVID era.
Kid, I don't remember having a device I couldn't live without as a kid. I got my first cell phone when I was in 9th grade, when I just entered high school. And it was just a way to contact my parents, call my driver to come pick me up. But it wasn't anything that that I was so attached with that I couldn't live without. It was less that because when I needed to contact my friends, I would, use the internet and chat through MSN or AOL. So yeah.
Grader. One thing I can't live without is my phone. I tend to do like social media or play games like Brawl Stars or like Roblox. I usually spend like 2 to 3 hours on like Netflix or like Instagram, and I like it because it's like a way to relax and like a way to relieve my stress.
And a device that I couldn't live without when I was a teenager would have been a calculator. Calculators were sort of invented when I was a kid. I think they were around when I was, before I was a teenager, but they were very expensive. And they had like a roll of paper that would fit in them so you could like add up stuff and then print out what you added. My dad bought one of those for like $100. And we used to play with it by like typing out messages that had a digital readout, so we'd spell like hello and stuff. But when I was a teenager, I used my calculator to do my work, my homework especially. It was so great to have a scientific calculator that could do logarithms because before I was allowed to use the calculator, logarithms were tables in the back of your math book, and you had to look up the logarithm or like the sine or the cosine. You had to look it up in tables instead of having it as a digital device.
When I hang out with my friends, the one thing I always do is go to a photo booth, take good pictures, and next we usually go to a cafe to take some kind of Instagram posts or just chit chat with my friends about school.
I guess elementary and middle school, the majority of the time I hung out in the playground. Like my friends and I would try to dominate the playground. We'd be like, as soon as school was out, we would run and go to the monkey bars and like make sure that our friends and our circles would have the monkey bar and that nobody else would touch the monkey bar, and we would play there. And as I moved into high school, I spent a lot of time in school and sometimes like in McDonald's and we would hang out there, but we didn't have any like photo booth, or maybe we did, but I just didn't go. And sometimes like we would go to karaoke and dine out, but not too late. I had a curfew, so I had to come back home.
Like one way I can communicate with my friend is like through Instagram or like social media. And after school, I usually just to hang out, I usually just go to like places that are like you can eat stuff like Yoajong, like cafes, yeah, foodie, yeah.
College. My university had computer labs, so I would go to the computer lab in my dorm or the computer lab at the engineering building to type papers and do homework assignments, but there was no internet in those days. The internet wasn't invented until 10 years after I graduated from high school. So doing research was still in books and magazines. You didn't look things up on the internet in those days. We all had email addresses, but email was so new, hardly anyone checked email. We didn't start registering for courses online until my second or third year at university. So probably 1988, I think, was the first time I registered for courses online.
My teacher once told me how back in his old times he had to go through library books, encyclopedias in order to do a single research, and he criticized how these days a lot of students, including me, use AI or just searching up on the Google to make it way easier for us to do research projects and those kind of classworks. So that's what I felt there was some generational gap, because I live in a more digital era than the teacher was. So I think this is one generational gap that we feel.
Ooh, I mean, I can't really think of one at the top of my head, but I think I get one every now and then when I ask some general questions, like as a prompt question to get the discussion going, and I see students looking at me like, huh, what is Miss Lee talking about? I think that's when it really hits me that, oh my gosh, the kids don't understand this because they've lived a completely different life than I have. So yeah, every now and then I do feel the generational gap. I think the questions that you've brought up also, I think, is kind of tuned in to make me realize that there is a generational gap. So yep.
One thing that like shocked me because of like the age gap between like my teachers and I were like they said that they were gonna post something on Facebook, and I was kind of shocked because like some of the people like around me, they said like that they don't use Facebook and like only their parents use it. So like that made me feel like there was a generational gap between us.
I'm Gen X, right? So the hard part about that is there's a lot of technology that was invented in my lifetime. So like movies. When I was a kid, movies came out on TV, and they would come out, and you didn't have any control over when they came out. Like we would watch The Wizard of Oz every year when it was on TV. So we would watch up for it in the TV guide to watch these shows. Or we would go to a movie theater. And again, there was no control. It was just whatever was in the movie theater, that's what you would go and watch. But when I was in high school, they started renting VCR. You could get a movie on a VCR or on a laser disc, and you could watch it whenever you felt like it. I think when I was in college, Blockbuster Video was a big thing. And then eventually people could record things from the TV set. And then you could do DVR, which was like watching the show. Like if you had a show you liked watching, but you weren't home that week, you could record it and then watch it whenever you wanted to. So all this technology, where we are now with being able to stream things is so far away from what my experience was as a teenager.
I think it's really crucial that we stay open-minded and try to understand each other's background, because we all have different perspectives, and furthermore, we come from different generations, which is a very big gap, I think. So I think it's really important that we don't try to criticize each other or only think that our kind of generational methods are the best, but try to embrace their other ideas from their generation. And yeah.